Hi guys, welcome to another 2-minute devotion with Dad. This is probably one of the chunkiest ones I will have ever done to date. It's actually quite extraordinary, the things that in just one word, you just do a word study and everything opens up. It's amazing. So today is a word study and you're going to love it. It might actually help a lot of situations where there's been not uncertainty, but just not even confusion. But anyway, let's jump in. You'll see what I mean. So, verse 12 in Mark chapter 1, the Spirit then compelled Jesus to go into the wilderness, where he was tempted by Satan for 40 days. He was out among the wild animals, and the angels took care of him. Now, I know I've already done recently a Devo on this verse. I did the director's cut in Matthew and the elements of Jesus' temptation. But today I want to go literally on just one word, and the word is tempted, as you've probably guessed. So the little C next to here leads us to this word here, perezo. Now, I'm going to show you this word in the back of my Bible, and then we're going to jump into Blue Letter Bible. And all I can say is, prepare to be dazzled. So, perezo, 3985, 3986. Perezo, perezamos. Tempt, try. This verb perezo and its conjugate noun perezamos can mean trying to learn more about the character, nature, or viability of someone or something. A person who is tested often becomes a better, more mature person because of the test. These words can also mean temptation, attempting to cause someone to fail and sin. Now see all these extra references: Matthew 6:13, Mark, Luke, Corinthians, Galatians, Thessalonians, Timothy, Hebrews, James, and 1 Peter. All of these use these words, peresimo. I'm not going to look up each one of those, but definitely get your Bible out and look up each one of these references, because it will put into context the meaning of this word, perezo. Now, like in particular, it's, "O foolish Galatians, who has bewitched you?" or "Who has done this to you?" That's the Galatians one. First Thessalonians, I think it is, was the one where Jesus is tempted, or is it this one, Hebrews? Jesus was tested in all points as we are, yet without sin. James, no one should say, "God is tempting me." So these words are literally the trial to test. It's not necessarily, "Hey, come over and do this" kind of temptation, even though we render it in our vocabulary, in our language as such. It's actually the testing of character. I sort of picture, I picture someone making a tool or something, and they've just finished making it, and now they go, "Okay, let's test it to see if it works," sort of thing. I sort of picture this kind of thing. So that's the nuances behind this word test or tempt. Okay, so let's now go into our Blue Letter Bible. And I've got a little head of myself, as you can see. So here's our 3985 perezo, 3986 perezamos, and even pero. That's 3987. So let's go back to these ones. And I think even 384 was a trial, experience, attempt. Now, the reason why I want to take you through each one of these words, just briefly, is so we can see the use of these words in other verses. To try whether a thing can be done, to attempt, endeavour, to make a trial of, for the purpose of ascertaining his quality or what he thinks or how he will behave himself, in a good sense, and also in a bad sense, to test one maliciously, craftily, to put the proof of his feelings or judgments, to try to test one's faith, virtue, character, to enticement, or by enticement to sin. So it does also have that enticement factor to it, but it's not just to get to someone to stumble. And that is, so after the Old Testament usage of God, then this is interesting, to inflict evils upon one in order to prove his character and steadfastness of his faith. Men are said to tempt God by exhibitions of distrust, as though they wished to try whether he is not justly distrusted, and by impious or wicked conduct to test God's justice and patience, and to challenge him, as it were, to give proof of his perfections. So we have these verses down here. Jesus was led up of the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted of the devil. And when the tempter came to him and said, and like, I won't read every verse, but here even the Pharisees and Sadducees came tempting and desired that he do a sign from heaven. The Pharisees came to him, tempting him. And so all of these words, these verses, use the 3985. Just do a little bit more. There's quite a bit. And then it goes into the Acts and Epistles. Don't defraud. That's a different context, that one, about defraud, so look that one up later. But all of these verses have the 3985 rendering of this word. Now, if we go back to, I've gone too far. This here is now just the left side is Old King James, and I've worked out a way to show on the right the New Living Translation, which is what we're reading in the actual Bible, the physical Bible, just to see how this renders them differently. And even this is cool. And immediately the Spirit driveth him into the wilderness, verse 12 on the left. And on the right, the Spirit then compelled Jesus to go into the wilderness. Actually, that's a whole different endeavour I was going to do, about the word compelled and driveth. So I won't go into that now. So going back to verse 13, sorry. And there he was tempted. Tempted, parazio. So now let's go to 3986. Parazamos, an experiment, attempt, trial, proving. So this is now the noun conjugation, remember? A trial, a proving, a trial made of you by my bodily condition, since condition has served as to test the love of the Galatians towards Paul. A trial of man's fidelity, integrity, virtue, constancy, an enticement to sin. So this is the act of, rather than the verb, it's the noun. So this is why we see the different words when we go down into these verses here, and lead us not into temptation. So now Jesus is praying, this is the Lord's Prayer, lead us not into temptation, the noun, but deliver us from evil. I'd be willing to hazard a guess if Jesus was to say, and please don't tempt us, Lord, as part of his prayer, that would have been 3985, but deliver us from evil. Other renderings say, let us not yield to temptation, let us not give in. So it's not that we want to be tried, but we're going to sometimes have to be tried. Watch and pray that you do not enter into temptation. So this is now the noun form. And when the devil had ended all of the temptation in Luke, this is back to with this current one for Mark, temptation is 3986. So now we go down to all of these renderings, and we'll see all different verses in the noun form. So they are linked. So when you have temptation or when you are tempted, it's just the changing of the conjugation and therefore the different number. So why am I going to all this depth? Actually, let's do 3987. To make a trial of, to attempt, taught by trial, experienced, to test, to make a trial of. So once again, there's only 3 areas now, 3 verses where this verse is actually used. And look at Hebrews 4:15, for we have not a high priest which cannot be tempted or touched with the feeling of our infirmities, but was in all points tempted, as we are, yet without sin. So that's actually this one here. He was tried, he was trialed, he was tested, as we are. So these temptations that we go through sometimes are to test our character, and it's not just for the devil to make us fall, as we would always render, but it actually also is a tool sometimes used that God tests our character to see if we're ready for probably the next level, the next lesson in life, the next part of life, I don't know. So when we go back into these words, it's quite awesome to see where these words fit in and how these verses bring a new angle to our experience as humans, where all we want to do is the wrong thing, or tempted to self-gratify, or whatever. And actually, even though that is a component, it's actually only part of the meaning. And so I just want to encourage you guys that when you read these words, think about that meaning in context of the verse itself. And like even here, James, let no man say when he is tempted, I am tempted, for God cannot be tempted with evil, neither tempteth he any man. But every man is tempted when he is drawn away of his own lust and enticed. So it's the same word. That 3985 is made a trial of, in a bad sense, tested maliciously, or it might be your test of faith, character, virtue, etc. You need to ask God to, first of all, help you through the temptation, but also to determine which one is happening here. And it's not that we ever want to go through this, because Jesus said to pray, lead us not into temptation, help us not to be trialed like this. It's not something to be desired, but it's also something that we will have to go through. And this was Jesus's time of certification, I guess. This is why he had to go out into the wilderness. And whole new Devo, the word compelled or driven in verse 12. And I won't go into now, but these are the things that are implied by this word. So isn't that encouraging? I think it's awesome, because now we go back to this word. He was tempted by Satan for 40 days. So when we go back into Matthew, we now see I was talking about the levels at which Jesus was tempted, and actually I haven't actually gone into this. Let's do one quickly. This is a live one now. Thou shalt not put Lord, you must not test the Lord your God. So this is now Matthew 4, verse 7. So all we need to do now is go to Matthew 4, 7. So, thou shalt not tempt the Lord thy God. Let's see which word is used. We should already know this one. Thou shalt not tempt, 1598. To prove, test thoroughly, to prove God's character and power. So this is a different word again. How about that? And behold, a certain lawyer stood up and tempted him, saying, what shall I do to inherit eternal life? Neither let us tempt Christ, as some of them also tempted and was destroyed of serpents. And this is the only word that Jesus actually uses here to say, thou shalt not tempt the Lord your God, 1598. So there you go. That's a different one again. Isn't that amazing? So when we go into these words, we see the meaning behind it. And so this is testing God at a different level. It's actually causing Jesus, what Jesus is referring to, testing God or back at him sort of thing. So this is another word study again. How about that? So anyway, this is probably a longer one. I haven't seen the time yet, how long it's going for. But be encouraged. These word studies, they go so deep sometimes. But what I love about Blue Letter Bible is you see quickly all the other verses, and you don't have to look it up physically. Like in the back of my Bible that had the references, you've got to physically look them up, which I did before doing this. But it's also excellent to see a quick comparison of all the verses, just boom, 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 one by one, and how they fit in. So my encouragement to you is go back, think about the verses that this refers to, and how you've either read them before, or if you've never read them before, take this with you into those readings, and just think about what it is and why it is that you're being tempted. And there's always a greater picture. There's always a bigger mission, I guess. And it's not just about getting us to fall and do what we want, to feel guilty and all these things. Even though that is the tool, it's not the end game. Bless you guys. Have a great day, and I'll see you at the next one. Bye.